Welcome to Just Cook It Radio, hosted by Chef Mario Pareca and Bill Alexander. Just Cook It Radio is about food, life, and everything in between. And now, your hosts of Just Cook It Radio, Mario and Bill.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are listening to Just Cook It Radio on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS, and also on FCTV Channel 77 and streaming live on FayetteTV.org. I am Mario Pareca. Diagonal from me this week is right. Bill Alexander.
And that's good. I'm diagonal. We've moved from every side of the table at every TV program just to see what works.
Either that or to get some comments and see what people like.
That may be it too. I don't know.
Which angle does the light hit me the best?
Well, I think our backs would probably be better for TV.
Well, that's what happens when you have a face for radio.
You got it.
But I want to throw the phone numbers out there really quickly at the top of the show. The number is toll-free is 855-590-0590, or locally you can reach us at 724-812-0590. And you can get all our information at our website at justkookitradio.com. All the information about our podcast, about our apps, and all our social media presence, which we do use quite a bit. So check that out. We have a fun-filled show, Bill, today.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you had an integral role. Integral role, not intricate, well, intricate too, but integral role, and we have a very special guest that we mentioned last week,
right.
And it's Eric Weber, who's the spokesman for Spoetzl Brewery. Did I say that correctly?
No.
Okay, do you want to correct me?
You don't say the O.
Spoetzl?
No, that's the thing you make at the Duquesne Club.
Yes.
It's Spoetzl Brewery.
Spoetzl. Thank you, Spoetzl. Let's start this from. Take this from the top, okay? Like if we're not live.
Right.
Eric Weber from Spoetzl Brewery.
There you go.
He is the spokesman. We'll have him later in the show. And Bill, do you want to give us some background about Eric and why we wanted to have him on?
They make a beer called Shiners, and that's the line of beer they make in Shiner, Texas. And I had the opportunity about 2 years ago to try this. I was at an event for actually the National Road Heritage Corridor. They were doing their annual fundraiser, and I won a beer basket. One of the beers that was prominent in the basket was Shiners, and it had all the Shiners, every different type they make. Well, the one in there that I have been drawn to is a Shiners Bock, which is an American Bock, not as dark as you would normally think, but it's a very good beer. Well, I did everything I possibly could to scour southwestern Pennsylvania to find two distributors that distribute it. The only problem is I'm not the only one that found the beer because I have to call ahead to make sure they have it when I go up there to get it. One's 40 minutes away and the other one's 15 minutes away, so I have to make these phone calls. Well, I was on Shiner's website about a month ago, and I figured let's contact them. Let's see what they have to say. And luckily enough, they responded, and they were more than happy to join us.
That's really cool. I'm looking forward to speaking with Eric and hearing more about beer. I mean, beer is one of those things. I mean, a lot of people associate wine with food,
right?
But beer is another thing that goes really well with
That's
food.
Right.
Think of pizza. Think of wings. You know, it's awesome. It's one of those great American. Well, it's not really American, but it is in this day and age.
Well, it is. It's one of those things that. You want to say that we how do you want to put it? We perfected it. Maybe that's a good idea.
Our taste, I guess.
Right.
But one thing before we move on, I want to just say really quickly a thank you to our guest from last week, Bess Rogers.
That song was stuck in my head.
You and me both. But I guess that's the point of the song, right? That's what it's supposed to do. Jingle wise.
You say it right now, and I'm here. Oh, the one and never mind. We won't go there. I mean,
you can keep going.
Oh my goodness.
But she was great. I had a lot of fun talking to her, and
mind control. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see if we can get her.
Well, I've been working on my origami, so I'm gonna get that one week.
I'm looking for the frog.
That's what I said.
The TV audience now can actually see this frog you talked about, and we don't have one.
1 week you're gonna be over there programming the show, and then all of a sudden you're gonna have a paper frog just come jumping onto the keyboard. But so thank you, Bess, from last week. And then next week, you're going to want to make sure you tune in because we're going to have the fine folks from Stonyfield on the show. And they're all organic. They do a lot of dairy products. They do milk, yogurt, ice creams. So we're going to get to talk to them about their products.
Last Sunday, I was at a birthday party, and my niece was there, my not my oldest, my third niece was there, and we were talking about the program. And she's really big into Martha Stewart. And I told her, I said, you need to check us out. I said, here's the app, here's all the information. And I said, we have an interview coming up with Stonyfield Farms in a couple of weeks. And she thought it was the greatest thing in the world because that's all she buys. And I didn't know that, which I'm going, wow. I mean, I do have a connection with this. Not that I've really ever had it before until I told my wife the same thing. She goes, I used to buy their yogurt all the time. Mm-hmm. So again, it's one of those things that you don't really think about. I mean, what is in your refrigerator? What's in your pantry? Do you know where it's coming from? And lucky for you guys, we actually get to talk to the people so we can talk about their product to maybe enlighten you or inform you or whatever the means may be.
Yeah, it's really interesting to actually go to the source because these are products that we all use on a daily basis. But you never really, like you said, think about where they're coming from or how they get into that container that's into your refrigerator. Right. So to get to talk to the people and get the background on it and know what exactly happens and why is really interesting.
And one thing I'd like to share with you, especially with the ways to contact us, if there is a company, food-related, drink-related, that you'd like us to get in touch with,
fun-related,
whatever, let us know because we're open to pretty much anything out there. I got an email last week, and I still haven't figured out how to relate this to what we do, that I used to host a big band show here years ago on WMBS and also one on the internet. And someone found some old contact information, and they sent me an email about their new big band CD that came out. And I'm thinking, how in the heck do I connect that to food? I mean, I'm still trying to figure that one out. Yeah. And once I do, I'll let you know, and we'll probably bring them on.
Well, we could have like the Just Cook It snack hour where we talk about the snacks we're eating while we do the interviews.
That's not a bad idea.
That's just an idea. You can relate anything to food.
That's true, too.
It just takes a little ingenuity, if you will. There's a fun word, huh? Kind of like gazebo. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I also want to mention to people to check out yesterday, my For Starters column, again, was in Go Magazine. It's every 2 weeks.
No samples. So,
Make sure you check it in. It was really, really good when I made it.
I'm sure it was.
It was one of those things where I made it, and the family was there, and they were they're not into lamb. Okay, my parents aren't. I love it. They're very hesitant about it. But once it was done, and I'm sitting there eating it, my dad goes, "All right, let me try a piece." So I said, "Here you go, try one." He said, "This doesn't taste like lamb at all." I said, "Well, kind of does, but it's not as gamey." And loved it.
It's funny. It's funny you mention that because I had a note in the back of my head that I had to tell you this. We were out last weekend. Like I said, birthday party was on Sunday. We're getting the stuff, the gifts, and everything ready for the party. And we're driving on a road, and there's this restaurant on the side of the road. They're doing gyros. And it says real lamb gyros. I look at my wife and I said, thank goodness, I'd hate to taste what the fake lamb gyros would be.
A lot of them aren't real lamb. They're a mixture of meat, because you know that it's that big wheel of meat that they put. Well, with gyro, it's that big wheel of meat, and they put it on a spit, and it spins around, and there's like heat lamps almost that cook it.
Right.
And then what they do is they just take a knife and press it up against it, and as it spins, it slices it real thin.
Gotcha.
So traditionally, it's like a leg of lamb, but a lot of places will take this ground up stuff that they press
and they
form into
it.
this.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where.
I didn't know. I thought it was fun, because I'm not. It's not that I'm a big fan of lamb. I just don't have it very often. And
it's an acquired taste. Yeah. I mean, but if you get a really good lamb, it's they're not as gamey.
Okay.
The best lamb I've ever had is Elysian Fields lamb. Okay. And it's actually from Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Keith Martin is the guy who raises the lamb. We used to get our lamb there to do King lamb. He provides it to a limited number of places because he can only raise so many lamb a year.
Right.
And he was actually in another field and quit.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Okay.
He was in not a lamb field, another field of business.
I got you.
And decided to drop that and just go straight into lamb farming. And his lamb are out of this world.
What? Never mind. One thing before we go to break, what's the difference between lamb and sheep?
Lamb and sheep?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Are they the same thing, or is it just...
I believe lamb are younger.
Okay.
Not completely sure. I know mutton is the oldest.
Okay.
If you eat mutton, those are the older lamb. They're a little tougher, a little gamier. And mutton is very common in like English food. If you go to like England, they eat a lot of mutton. I've heard of
that, yes.
But lamb is younger than mutton. I know that, and that's what we eat here, a lot of lamb. Lamb chops, leg of lamb loin, tenderloin, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of just make sure you go out and you get it. And the in Go Magazine, or you can go to heraldstandard.com and check that out as well. And you can also watch the House to Home show, which is affiliated with the Herald Standard, right before us every Tuesday and Sunday on FCTV, which is channel 77 in the local area.
Every new show that we do is on Tuesday night, and the rerun of that show is on Sunday.
Afternoon.
And speaking of that, we got to take a break.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hit up our food holidays for the week, and then later in the program, we're going to have Eric Weber from
Spoetzl's.
There you go. It's not just me.
Spoetzl's
Brewery. So, don't touch that radio dial. Just Cook It Radio is being served up to you today by the Big Barn Country Store and Deli, by Pareca Chiropractic Center, Inc., by 4th Street Barbecue, by the Herald Standard, and on TV by Phil Giannetti Motors.
And we're back with more of the Mario Cook Show here on Fayette TV, Channel 77, and also here on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS.
Phil Giannetti Motors at 656 National Pike East in Brownsville is a proud sponsor of programming on FCTV. Phil Giannetti Motors providing quality vehicles for 45 years. If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, give Phil Giannetti's a call at 724-785-6800 or stop by their website, philgiannettymotors.com.
Good to have you back. You are listening to... Bill, what are we listening to?
I know. It's Just Cook It Radio. I did the other name for how long, and it's ingrained in my head that I don't have to think about it anymore. But I know it's Just Cook It Radio. Fine.
Okay, I'm going to make you write that 500 times.
Where's the chalkboard at? I don't see one.
That's right.
I need a big sign right here just to do that.
That's okay.
The radio audience has no idea what I'm doing, but TV sees me moving my arms. Hey,
making shadow puppets on the back
wall. We
wall.
can do the wave.
The two-person wave. That's brilliant. But you are listening to Just Cook It Radio right here on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS.
Why more TV programs are not this fun is beyond me.
Oh, this is great. And also, as mentioning, speaking of TV, on FCTV Channel 77 and streaming live on FayetteTV.org. And Bill, right before we went to break, we were saying we were going to get into our food holidays as we do every week, and we have a limited amount of time this week to do our food holidays. Because of the interview coming up, which is a good thing.
Mr. Weber. And we're just going to say it from the Shiner, Texas.
From Shiner, Texas.
There we go.
And I'll give you a little info on Shiner, Texas right before we get into the interview.
Oh, really?
And then
Cool.
We can ask him some questions about Shiner and see what he has to say. But Bill, today, this is one of my favorites. Happy National Lobster Day.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes, we are big fans of lobster. And to celebrate Lobster Day today, I have some fun facts about lobster that maybe you didn't know. Well, I'm sure a lot of you don't know because I didn't know most of these. And I've spent a lot of time with lobster. If it was illegal, if they
do you date?
Well, no. If killing a lobster was murder,
yes,
I would have consecutive life sentences.
I'm sure you would.
Sentences.
There's a few of us that would too.
So yeah, but here's some fun facts. Lobster. There's 11 here. Let's see how many we can get through before we go through the other food holidays. Number one, Bill, did you know lobsters navigate by smell? They taste with their feet and they listen with their legs.
No, but how would you figure that out?
I have not a clue.
I mean, that's actually.
And I did.
How would you know?
Just to let you know, I did triple check these facts through 3 different reputable sources, so they are true. Because when I first read them, I thought someone's messing with us, but no, they're not.
They are true.
They are true. Their brain,
like the rumor I heard recently that Washington was roasted and burned at the stake, but that's another story
that
for
was
another
on a different
day.
program.
Never mind, don't go there.
Washington apples, you mean?
Maybe, I don't know.
Lobsters' brains are in their throats and their teeth are in their stomachs.
Who paid for this research? I mean,
the National Lobster, I don't know.
It's probably a grant from the federal government. Alliance. Honestly, I probably believe that.
Did you know lobsters in a pinch, they'll actually eat each other?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know? Well, I knew this one too. They shed their skeletons, which are on the outside, so they molt their
I knew
shells.
that too, yeah.
They can throw a claw, okay, in quotations, meaning discharge it from their body and grow a new one. I knew that one.
Lobster Man. Boom, boom.
Kind of like Iron Man. Lobster Man. We might be able to make a movie about that.
There we go.
Females can carry around and then release thousands of eggs.
Okay.
I mean, but only, and here's the next one. Out of 10,000 eggs laid, it is estimated that only 10 will survive to maturity.
Really? Okay.
So that's what, 1 in 1,000?
About that, yeah.
And we're 1 in a million, right?
Again, who's counting them? But 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I also read, you know how
5.
people always tell you that you're 1 in a million?
Yes.
Well, if you're 1 in a million, that means there's 600 people in the world that are just like you.
Oh, good point. Never thought of that. That's a very good point.
Just for future
That's
reference.
a very good point.
I have, when I was younger and I would get into trouble,
Yes.
I would say 9 3/4 times out of 10 it was because of my mouth. It was always something
Most
I
of
would
us, yeah.
say. And I had all these facts that
Yes.
were
Useless?
Yes, but I would use them in a pinch like that when someone would say you're 1 in a million.
Right.
I'd say, also, there's 600 other people in the world exactly like me. But anyway, that's a different story. Lobsters.
I'm sure you are a fun kid to be around.
I'm still fun as an adult.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not really an adult, but I have the appearance. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? Lobster's weight times 4. Okay, this is a mathematical equation.
Okay.
Go back to algebra.
It's early, you know that, right?
Well, this will wake you up. I'll take a lobster's weight, multiply it by 4, add 3, so it's times 4 plus 3, is their approximate age. So if you want to find out the age of a lobster, you know how they do dog years with dogs?
Right.
So to find out a lobster's age, you weigh it, you take its weight, you multiply that by 4, and you add 3 to that.
Why don't I just get a cleaver, cut it in half, and count the rings?
Because it's not a tree, Bill.
Oh, it'd be easier.
So lobsters also, see, now this one I found perplexing because I've only seen them in certain colors, but it says they come in every color but red, except when they're cooked, then they're all red.
Right.
Which I knew that one, but long before they were a delicacy, lobsters were fed to prisoners and servants. The law limited the number of days lobster could be fed to prisoners before it became known as abuse.
How? How is that abuse?
Do you want to go to become a
If I knew,
prisoner now?
I mean, if I knew they were serving that 5 days a week, maybe we can talk.
You can eat lobster 5 days a week?
I can.
Sounds like a plan.
I can.
So a female lobster is called a hen. A
Yes,
male
I do
lobster
that
is
too.
called a cock.
I do that
A
too.
little guy, or a younger one, is called a chicken.
Okay.
A pistol, they call a lobster who has no claws.
Okay.
And a cull, C-U-L-L, has just 1 claw.
Okay.
And that's your lobster fun facts for the day.
Lobster facts of the day.
You like that? And
I
that's
like
how you
that.
celebrate National Lobster Day.
There you go.
My favorite way to have lobster, butter poached.
Okay.
That's my favorite way. Cooked slowly in butter. Broiled is good too. I mean, but you can eat lobster in so many different
Yeah.
ways. So, and today, Bill, is also World Gin Day.
The gin is in the alcohol?
Yes.
Okay.
Gin, which comes from the juniper berries.
Yes.
Okay. We're pretty familiar with that, and I'll actually repost my my column from For Starters I did a
Yeah, I was
few
going to
months
say,
back.
you did one a while ago.
Yeah, one of my favorite cocktails that Ryan and I actually, he helped me with that one, was the sparkling cranberry
Yes.
ginger cocktail.
I remember that.
With gin. So I'll repost that one for you. And that's today in food holidays. Tomorrow, happy National Fudge Day.
Wait. A few weeks back, didn't we have fudge
We had
day?
a type of fudge. Tomorrow is just
fudge.
Yes.
Okay.
And do you know how fudge, I was looking up fudge, an interesting fact, how fudge got its name?
No.
It was actually, fudge is actually a dry version of fondant, and fondant's made by
Oh, I
boiling
would have
sugar and
never
milk.
guessed that.
And so, the invention of some food historians believe that fudge the date was February 14th, 1886.
Okay.
But the exact origin and inventor are disputed, so that's like a general timetable they believe. They claim the first batch of fudge resulted from an accident with a bungled or fudged batch of caramels when the sugar was allowed to recrystallize, hence the name for the interjection, "Oh fudge."
Oh, fudge. Very good. That's
So someone messed up, said "Oh fudge," and they said, "Hey, there's an idea."
good. I hate to spoil your fun. We're going to have to move through these real quick
Okay.
if we're going to talk to Eric
So,
this morning.
we were going to talk to Eric this morning, so that means we're moving through these real quick. On the 17th, we have Eat All Your Veggies Day.
No, I don't like that one. Go
So
to the
that's
next
for
one.
the children and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
go to
and
the
it's
next
also
one.
National Apple Strudel Day.
Oh, I like that one.
Yes.
That's good.
Then we have, on the 18th, National Cherry Tart Day, which I really love.
Okay.
And I'm going to post a recipe on our website for a pistachio, cherry, and chocolate tart that I found. It looks awesome.
Going to say, I don't know if I would have ever put pistachio and cherry together.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I would have never guessed
You
that.
ever have Spumoni ice cream?
Yes.
Pistachio,
Oh, okay.
dried
Yeah,
cherry,
you're right.
and
You're right.
chocolate.
You're right.
One of my
Okay.
favorite ice creams. Absolutely.
you're right.
And chocolate and cherry is one of my favorite
That would be
all-time
good.
combinations. Milkshakes, I love chocolate cherry milkshakes, especially with hamburgers. Oh, fantastic.
You eat the hamburger on the side or in the shake?
On the side.
Okay,
You eat
just
your
wanna make
hamburger,
sure.
and while you eat it, you drink your
Okay,
chocolate
that
cherry
works.
shake.
That works.
And it's also International Picnic Day.
That's a good day.
And again, I want to remind everyone that we will talk more in depth about these on the Just Dishin'
Oh, yeah, of course.
podcast, just as we did last week.
Right.
The 19th, we have National Dry Martini Day.
That's a
and
good
I
one,
love
too.
dry martinis with blue cheese stuffed olives. Now, are you a gin martini guy or a vodka martini guy?
I guess the only time I've ever had one, it was probably a vodka martini.
Yeah, I like vodka martinis myself. Shaken, not stirred. The traditional martini was actually stirred, not to bruise the gin, they call it. But James Bond is the one who started.
And if I remember
shaken, not
correctly, we
stirred.
discussed this when you had this thing in the
Yes.
newspaper.
And
Because all this is starting to come
Yes.
back to
and
me.
we'll discuss more about James Bond.
Yes.
007, and more about martinis and where they came from on the podcast. The 20th is National Vanilla Milkshake Day.
Oh, my favorite.
Yes, I like vanilla milkshakes, and I like the fact that you can incorporate different things into it.
Yeah, but would it still be a vanilla milkshake then?
Well, vanilla's like, I look at vanilla milkshake like Bob Ross looking at a blank canvas.
Yeah.
That's kind of my...
Vanilla is vanilla is vanilla. and
Don't
there's not
you
supposed to
ever
be anything in
after
vanilla.
a Bob Ross reference again. Happy little trees never get the net. And then on the 21st, to wrap up our week, we have National Peaches and Cream Day, which I
Okay,
really like,
that's a good
especially
one,
this time
too.
of year. A lot of good
Spring.
peaches. Yep. And
Spring soon going to the summer.
Spring has sprung. Fall off the ledge, right?
It's hard to believe that today is the 15th,
But-
and we're halfway through the
Yes.
month of June.
Unbelievable.
I mean, and it's like, but June just got here. We were just at a farmer's market 2 weeks ago.
I know. This is our third show of the month.
Yeah, with whatever title we're using this month. Yeah.
With Just Cook It Radio.
There you go.
Okay. But, yeah, so the food holidays again. A lot of fun food holidays this week, and we'll go more in depth with those on the Just Dishin' podcast. So make sure you go to justcookitradio.com and check out the Just Dishin' podcast, where we will talk more about all our food holidays, and we'll be posting some recipes on the website. So make sure you check those out. And Bill, are you ready to get Eric on the line?
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes. You said you had some information about Shiner, Texas. We probably should explain before
So let's talk
we
about
get
Shiner,
started.
Texas really quickly, because I thought this was interesting. Because when you think of small towns,
Yeah.
a lot of really good products come from really small towns,
Okay.
which I don't think is I don't think it's crazy, because it just seems like, for whatever reason, they take more pride in what they produce because it comes from a place they're proud of.
And one thing I'm starting to notice, and maybe it's just because of where we're at in southwestern Pennsylvania, is that, and you can tell I'm losing my voice, I apologize, guys, that you're noticing a lot of businesses that may have started in those towns are coming back, and they're going back to their roots. And from what I can tell about Spoetzl Brewery, that's what they did, but they never left. That's where they're at. They are proud Shiner Texians, I guess you could call it, and they've never
Texans.
left. Why did I say Texians? I don't know. It's Texans. Jeez, it's been a rough
Houston
morning.
Texans. Anyway, Shiner, yeah, you're right. And Shiner is actually 2.4 square miles.
Well, that's a small town.
And it's between Houston and San Antonio.
Okay.
So if you get a map and you draw the triangles, Houston, San Antonio, Shiner's right smack dab in the middle. And it's known as, and this is in quotations, the cleanest little city in Texas.
I believe that.
So, and it has over 2,000 residents.
And probably most of them work at the brewery.
I would assume so, because if you look at their, and we'll talk to Eric about their different beers that they offer. But when I was doing my research for the spot, they do offer quite the variety of beer.
Yes.
Because I recently had just tried the Bock that
Right.
you brought me to try, and it was excellent. It was a great beer, and it makes me want. I really would love to try the Ruby Red grapefruit beer.
The grapefruit
What's it called?
ginger beer
Yeah,
that just came out.
is going to be interesting, and I'm a dark fan, so the black lager.
It's good. It's good. And you know what? I thought I had another black lager in the back of the fridge in the basement, and I didn't, because I was going to bring it for you. But it's also very good.
I'm sure it is. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's the thing too about these small towns and these businesses in these small towns. And like we said, they really take pride in their product.
Right,
So they may not have as many products as the bigger company, but and Shiner's has a vast array. But you can tell that they put a lot of care and a lot of thought and a lot of.
And they are distributed right now in 42 states in the United States. So
they're starting to make their way around.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, we got to step away, get everything ready for Eric to come in, and we'll be back.
We're going to bake a cake.
I didn't bring anything, did you?
If I knew he was coming, I'd
bake a cake.
But so anyway, as I tell that really corny joke, we will don't touch that radio dial, because when we come back, we'll have Eric Weber from
Spoetzl Brewery
on the line, and we will be talking all things beer and Shiner's beer. And our program today is being served up to you. Just Cook It Radio is being served up to you today by the Big Barn Country Store and Deli, by Prairie Chiropractic Center, Inc., by 4th Street Barbecue, by the Herald Standard, and on TV by Phil Gianetti Motors.
And we'll be back with more of the Just Cook It Radio here on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS, and also on Fayette TV, Channel 77.
Phil Gianetti Motors at 656 National Pike East in Brownsville is a proud sponsor of programming on FCTV. Phil Gianetti Motors, providing quality vehicles for 45 years. If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, give Phil Gianetti's a call at 724-785-6800 or stop by their website, philgianettymotors.com.
Well, it's good to have you back. You are listening to Just Cook It Radio right here on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS, and also streaming live on FCTV or FayetteTV.org. And Bill, this is an interview that you set up that we are really, really excited to have, because your favorite beer is the Shiner Bock, and you've told us that many, many times, and I actually never had the opportunity to have one until last week when you brought me one in, and I tell you what, it was fantastic.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I found totally by accident about 2 years ago. I was visiting someone, they had this beer, they offered me one, and I said, sure, I'll try it, and it is Shiner Bock. And I've been pronouncing the brewery's name wrong. I've been calling it Spoetzl, but it's Spoetzl. And we have Eric Weber from the brewery on right now, and we're going to be talking about Shiner beers and what they're doing in Shiner, Texas. So, Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. And you two have discovered the beer the way a lot of people outside of Texas have by through a friend or through serendipity or whatever, but thrilled that you both found it and liked it.
And it's one of those things. We're in western Pennsylvania. We're very close to Pittsburgh. We have Iron City Brewing. We had Rolling Rock. We had Stoney's. We had all these other brewing companies. And again, I found Shiners based in Texas just totally by accident. Are you noticing a lot of people are doing that? Are you starting to get some type of national recognition?
Well, we are distributed now in 42 states, so we have a pretty broad reach. In a lot of those states, it tends to be clustered around the major cities. But, yeah, we find that in a couple of ways, either through really good distributors and retailers who find that not only is the beer good, but that their customers like it, and then also a vast network of former Texans who live all over the country who take their loyalty and they sort of become brand evangelists for us and help spread the word as well. So those are both word of mouth and our former Texans are both really good salespeople for us.
Now, Eric, before we got on, when we were talking before the interview started, when you first called in, you were actually passing on some really interesting information about how the brewery started and about how it started in Shiner and how it's progressed over the years. Could you just go back into that for the listeners really quickly and just tell them how the founder came over and how things just kind of evolved?
Sure. The brewery itself started in 1909 in the town of Shiner, Texas, which is a small town, 2,000 people. in central Texas. And it was settled by German and Czech immigrants back in the mid to late 1800s. And just like in a lot of immigrant communities all over the country, all over the world, they tried to find ways to sort of bring the old countries with them. And one of the things that a lot of those farmers missed about the old country was the beer. And so being an agricultural area, a lot of them were, as I said, were farmers, cotton farmers and other kinds of farmers. They knew a little bit about the brewing business. So they started the Shiner Brewing Association in 1909 and started making beer just for their own consumption and for local consumption. And that's how it all got started in that town. And it was very popular and began to spread. When I say spread, I mean just in the small towns around there, until they reached such a point where they decided that they could make a go of this as a business, and that's when they decided to bring in a professional, a real honest-to-goodness brewmaster. And they found a guy who was born and trained as a brewmaster in Bavaria named Cosmo Spoetzl. He'd also worked at breweries in Cairo and in Cape Town, and he was in Canada at the time. And really how they tracked him down, I don't know. We have never really figured out exactly how they found him or what the connection was, but somehow in 1915 they convinced him to move from Canada to this little town of Shiner, Texas, that I'm sure he'd never heard of. He took a train to San Antonio. Somebody from the brewery picked him up there and drove him the 90 miles to Shiner, and that's it. He eventually bought the brewery and gave it his name, and that's how it came to be known as the Spoetzl Brewery, but the beers are still referred to as Shiner beers.
And as far as Shiner goes, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read that it is only 2.4 square miles, and it's known as the cleanest little city in Texas.
That is what the town calls itself. It is a true small town, the same kind of small town that you'd find all over this country. It has one stoplight. There's a weekly newspaper. And no movie theater anymore. Used to have one. A couple of decent restaurants and all, but yeah, it's a small town, and there's not a whole lot there in terms of industry other than the brewery. There's a place called the Casper Wire Works, which makes shopping baskets and wire things, and then everyone else is there. There are a lot of people in the agricultural business and some people in the oil business now, although not much. But yeah, this is a Shiner, the story of the brewery and the success it's not so much a Texas story, even though we have strong Texas roots of which we're very proud, but it's really a small town story, small town success story.
So is the beer that Spoetzl worked on all those many years ago, is it still being produced, and are they still making it the same way that he made it when he actually was alive and was running the brewery?
It is. His original recipe is called Shiner Premium, and it's a Pilsner-style lager, and it's still made. And in fact, around the town of Shiner, that's what the locals prefer. It's what most of the brewery workers, when they're drinking beer, they tend to drink Shiner Premium. The flagship beer of the brewery itself is Shiner Bock, which is an American dark lager, which was brewed seasonally by the brewery up until the 70s, and then it caught on in Austin, which again is also 90 miles from the brewery, and became very popular, and so we started brewing it year-round, and it has since become by far the biggest seller in the portfolio. It accounts for about 70% of our sales.
Yeah, and I use it for medicinal purposes during Penguins playoff games. So it's been my saving grace.
For medicinal purposes for all sports and even non-sporting activities. It's we don't have any proof of its medicinal abilities except for anecdotal proof, and that says that you should be drinking 2-3 a day just for the health benefit.
Hey, I can't argue with you. I really can't. It is one of my favorites. Now, how many different beers does the brewery actually produce?
There's a couple of levels of beers. We have the sort of year-round portfolio, and then we have a number of seasonal or sometimes specialty beers. So year-round, we're making Shiner Bock, Shiner Premium. We make a Schwarzbier, or black beer, called Shiner Bohemian Black Lager. and that's year-round, as well as a Hefeweizen, which we make year-round. And then seasonally, we have right now Ruby Redbird, which is a summer seasonal, and that's a Pilsner-style lager that's flavored with grapefruit, ruby red grapefruit from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, and also a little bit of ginger in there. And it's become extremely popular, really, really popular as our summer seasonal. We also make a wintertime or Christmas time seasonal beer called Holiday Cheer, and that's brewed with peaches from the Fredericksburg area of Texas, as well as Texas pecans that are roasted right there on site. The brewmaster himself roasts the pecans, and we make also an Oktoberfest in the fall of the year. So we have a number of those, and then we have, as I said, a few specialty beers. We produced our first true ale last year, which was called Wild Hare, which was an American pale ale. And we followed that up with Farmhouse, which is a farmhouse style, a saison style lager. So we're constantly trying to experiment a little bit and to stretch in terms of the complexity or the uniqueness of the beers, and that's proved to be also very successful for us.
Now, Eric, you are the first brewery that we've had on the show so far. But we have had wineries on in the past. We've interviewed some wineries, and I always ask them one specific question, and I'm going to ask you the same because I think it can kind of go either way with you guys. If someone came up to you today and said, "What's your favorite beer? What are you drinking the most of, or what would you grab if you were just going to have a beer? What would you pick?"
What I drink at home, so I do get asked this question. What I drink at home is Wild Hare, is our ale. Now I do have a variety in the fridge because on a really hot day or after I'm done playing tennis or golf or something, I might like a light blonde, which is our light beer, or low calorie beer, or a premium. But my sort of go-to is the Wild Hare Pale Ale.
Very cool, very cool. Now, tell me a little more. I'm a dark beer kind of guy. I love darker beers. So give me a little more insight about the black lager, just for my own personal use, because I'll tell you what, after trying the Shiner Bock that Bill gave me last week, I'm definitely going to go and try to find myself a case of the black lager. So tell me a little more about that, just so kind of the opposite end, of the darker end, I should say, of the spectrum.
Well, first of all, once we're done here, I'll see if I can't find the appropriate distributor for you and figure out where to find you a case of the black lager.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Thank
you.
The black lager came out of our anniversary series. So leading up to the 100th anniversary, which was in 2009, we started producing some limited run anniversary beers, and we did a Bavarian amber lager, we did a Helles style, we did a Czech Pils, and one of those was the Bohemian Black Lager, and it's traditionally it's in the style of what the Germans call a Schwarzbier or black beer, and that tends to come from the dark roasting of the malts that give it that color and a deeper flavor, a more roasty flavor. So it's as dark as a stout, but I think more of a session beer than most people would find as a stout, not quite as heavy, and so it's made with Shaw's hops, which are Czech hops, also Styrian's hops, but it's the roasting of the malts, I think, that really give it its distinct flavor. It's the darkest beer that we've ever made. It was our 97th anniversary beer.
You've been talking a lot about like the Bavarian brewing, I believe it is.
Yes.
And I've read about it. What is the difference between a Bavarian brewing and maybe the traditional brewing that's done here in the U.S.?
We refer to that because the beers, up until we made the Wild Hare, the first pale ale last year, all of the beers that we had a distinct either Czech or German influence. That is, they were recipes brought over by Cosmo Spoetzl, or they were inspired by that. So they all So a Schwarzbier is a fairly common beer in Germany, or the Czech Pils, of course, is wildly common in that part of Europe. And so that's when we talk about Bavarian, that recipe was inspired by the Bavarian roots of Mr. Spoetzl, or the beers were inspired by the beers of the homelands of the people who settled, so German or Czech influence. So when we talk about our Bavarian roots, that's what we mean, because the people when you go to Shiner, you still find some people, particularly older residents, who speak German or Czech at home. There's still quite a heavy influence, a German influence in Central Texas, and a lot of even Czech towns in Central Texas. And so that's when we refer to Germany or Czech influence, that's what we're talking about.
Now, Eric, before we wrap everything up, I have a question for you about the brewery and where the brewery sees itself in the next few years. Right now, you said that you're in 42 states,
42
right?
States, right. 42
states. Have you noticed certain areas that are actually buying more of the product than others, or is it all pretty much equal throughout the country?
No, there are definitely some pockets where we do really well. Of course, Texas accounts for most of our sales, and the states surrounding Texas, and that largely has to do with familiarity with the brand over years. But California, particularly Southern California, is a very strong market. Chicago is a really strong market, and we just launched into New York in April, and that has proved to be a very good launch for us. I think the distributor there is going to announce probably this week that we have exceeded 10,000 cases in the first month, which is beyond our expectations.
Wow.
So there are a few pockets here and there where we find ourselves popular. We have a big following among military people, and I think that's probably because so many of them, if you're in the Air Force, you're coming through San Antonio, through one of the Air Force bases there. If you're in the Army, you may have spent some time in Fort Hood, which is not far from, maybe 150 miles from the brewery. And so for those reasons, or for whatever reason, we have a strong military following, and that helps extend our reach as those people move around. So, but we definitely, I think, the Southwest and the West are strongest, New York and Chicago. We've done surprisingly well in New Jersey when we launched there. We just launched into the Philadelphia market. We've been available in Western Pennsylvania, but new in Philadelphia this last month. And so we're finding new markets have been very receptive to us. The challenge for us is that we're brewing now, somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000 barrels a year, I think. Every drop of it is still made right there in the town of Shiner, almost at the very spot where it all started in 1909. And the brewery only has 110, I think, workers in the brewery. So that's an awful lot of beer to produce without having to contract it out, which we won't do, or to move it somewhere else. Born in Shiner, and that's where we plan on staying.
Great.
Sounds
Thank you
great.
very much.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Eric. Thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, but this was fantastic. I had a lot of fun talking beer with you, and I had a lot of fun drinking that Shiner Bock last week too.
It gets more fun the more you do it.
That's right.
I believe it.
Thanks, guys.
So, thank you very much,
Thank
Eric.
you.
So that was Eric Weber from Bill, do you want to say the brewery's name so I don't butcher it?
Spoetzl.
Spoetzl Brewery.
Yes.
So I want to thank Eric and Bill. This will wrap it up for this episode. And we are here every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. right here on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS, and at justcookitradio.com.
You have been listening to Just Cook It Radio with Mario Pareca and Bill Alexander. For more information on this program and how to download it as a podcast, go to justcookitradio.com. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please call us at 1-855-590-0590.
This has been a $1 Million Baby production.